What's up, Big Dawg? This is Coach Roll from 5-Star Linemen Academy, and we're in the lab with another quick tip. Today's quick tip is about punching the sled properly. Problem. What's the problem? The problem is that when we're working our run technique and we're punching the sled, oftentimes we're lined up directly in front of that sled. For example, if I'm punching this sled, how often are we directly in front of this sled, right? Now, depending on the defensive front, you might be lined up directly in front of this sled. So that works perfectly for you if you're playing an even technique. Now, if you watch my previous videos on BigDawgFootball.com, you know even technique pertains to being lined up, head up, in front of that offensive lineman. Now, unless you are always head up in front of that offensive lineman, then punching the sled head up is perfect as far as getting you better on your run technique. However, most defenses are 4-3s, or oftentimes they're playing an odd technique, which is a 1-3-5-9 and so on, or they're playing an I technique, which is a 2-eye or a 4-eye or even a 6-eye, depending on how your coordinators set that number system up. But if you're playing an I technique or an odd technique, that means that you are lined up half of a man. So what's the problem? The problem is that if you are playing in a defense where you are never or hardly lined up head up, then we're not lined up properly when we're hitting this particular sled. So how do we fix that? Simple fix. The simple fix is this: align yourself up where you're actually going to be lined up in the defense. For example, if it's the 4-3 defense, that's the offensive tackle, this is the guard, don't mind the split, then where would I be lined up if I'm a defensive tackle in a 3 technique? I would actually be right here. Here. That would be my gap, and this would be my 3. My 3 is outside shoulder of the guard, right? That's why I want to line myself up, and that's the position I want to be in when I work the sled. I need to line myself up properly. I don't want to be in a 2 when my defense calls for me to be in a 3. I want to be in a 3, or I want to be in a 5 technique, right here. Actually, right where this white line is, might need to be where my inside foot is. My inside foot needs to be either splitting his crotch, or my inside foot needs to be inside of that tackle's toe. You understand what I'm saying? I need to be lined up here, not here, because this being head up is actually an even tech. Again, unless that's where your defense calls for you to be, then that's where you should line up when you're doing this drill. But at this point of the season, where you're playing a game almost every week, if not every week, muscle memory is a real thing, right? It's a big deal. And oftentimes we are setting ourselves up for success or failure. So what we need to do is line ourselves up properly. And now when we line ourselves up properly with our feet, now we're going to work what I call diagonal punches. Diagonal punches, okay? For example, if I'm playing a 4-3 or I'm playing an odd or I technique, if I'm playing half a man, here's the problem. I'm constantly working on punching a guy head up. Well, that's not where I want to be. So watch this. When you watch yourself play the game, when you watch yourself on film, and I see this often when I go to practices, or I see this often when I go watch guys play the game. What I always see them do quite often is they'll be lined up half a man and they'll step inside to punch that guy. Okay? Which is a problem. Now, why are they stepping inside to punch? It's because of what they've been trained to do. Big Dawg, keep this in mind. You are what you habitually do. You are what you habitually do. So habitually means habit. What are you constantly repping? What are you constantly training yourself to do every single day, right? So here's the issue. Let's line ourselves up properly, and let's make sure that we're working on our diagonal punch. So what we want to do is split this bag. We don't want to be head up. Don't want to be head up in front of this bag. We need to split this bag. And I'll give you some tips and things that's going to help your guy stay half a man. That to me is a diagonal punch. I'm not punching him straight up. It's a diagonal punch where I'm still getting separation and I'm looking through my outside scope. Now, if you watch my previous videos, outside scope is my outside hand. I'm looking through my outside hand. I'm looking through my outside scope, okay? We're gonna do this 3 times. 1, 2. Okay? This would be the better way to work this particular drill. If we are an odd technique guy or an eye technique, you need to work your diagonal punches. Let's go to the other side. There. Now, if you notice, I was looking through a hand. I was looking through a scope, okay? So let me get up close so you see what I'm saying. So if I'm diagonal punching, I need to be looking through my outside hand here. If I'm on this side, you'll see me looking through this hand. I'm looking through this scope or this scope or this scope. If I'm playing a technique where I'm half a man, I should be looking through a hand. If I'm playing half a man, I should be looking through a hand. Not both, not in between. I should be looking through a hand or a hand, okay? So while you're punching this sled and you're working on punching the sled properly, make sure, first of all, you line yourself up half a man. When you line yourself up half a man, then you work on your diagonal punches. Half a man, look through a hand. Half a man, look through a hand. So if your athletes are having a problem with punching half a man or working half a man, that bag's our friend. Putting that bag there is going to give them the position they need to be in. That bag is going to keep them from being over too far, all right? We want to make sure on run, if we're in a tight alignment, that we still should not pass his crotch. If we're supposed to be working half a man, then we shouldn't cross his crotch. If we're supposed to be working half a man, we shouldn't cross his crotch. Don't cross the crotch. If you have gap responsibility, if it's a gap defense, then you can't cross the crotch because you're trying to go through to get to. You're going through him to get to your gap. So your alignment is very important. Where you are aligned, where your A-line is very important. It starts with your stance. So having this bag here is going to make sure that we are properly placed. So what I recommend is I will put that bag there, starting with your 6-point stance punches, right here. So this bag here is letting the athlete know, Big Dawg letting you know that you don't want to go past his crotch. This representing his crotch line, okay? And the other side will be the same thing. Move it over, make sure this bag is splitting this sled. Okay, still working on getting elbows deep, getting separation so you can see, but all of that doesn't matter if you're not properly placed, okay? So we're punching properly, we're punching the sled properly. If you don't have a sled, get a bag, okay? Or get a guy in front of you. Either way, we need to punch properly. Work on your diagonal punches. Make sure you're placed in the right place so that your punches will be accurate and precise. I will properly progress this drill by going from the 6-point stance to the 3-point stance, or for some of you guys, the 4-point stance, okay? And I will make sure I still have my bag here or something that indicates that you can't cross the crotch. So from here, I would just get my 3 to 4-point stance and I would make sure I stay half a man. Just like that, I will progress that drill from the 6-point to the 3 or 4-point stance, and I would just punch. I wouldn't bring my feet yet, but I would work on diagonal punches, playing half a man, looking through the hand. From there, I will work what I call hands, feet, feet. Hands, feet, feet. Still working on diagonal punches. I still have my bag there or something to indicate that we can't cross the crotch. And I would bring my hands, diagonal punch, and work my feet working through to get to, working through half a man and getting to my gap. So as you've seen me and Coach Mike work these particular drills, we provided visual aids for you as to what you need to work on in practice or Big Dog on your own. Though we're in an odd technique and we have gap responsibility, we find ourselves directly in front of the offensive lineman. We're stepping to his center because we feel that that's the only way we're going to get a power punch. But we can still be powerful playing half a man. We can still be powerful playing half a man. Where's the problem occurring? The problem is probably occurring in the way you do the drill. We're staying half a man, not crossing his crotch and working our diagonal punch, looking through our scope. That is the answer. The answer is to stay half a man by alignment and by work. Sometimes we're lined up on a half a man, but we're working towards the center. So stay half a man in alignment and stay half a man in your work. That is the answer. And it starts with what you habitually do. When you're working the sled, make sure you're punching properly by working your diagonal punches while doing this drill. This has been Coach Roll with 5-Star Lineman Academy in the lab with Big Dog Football, and that is your Big Dog Quick Tip of today. Hey 5-Star Athlete, let's go to work.